Hello and welcome to the Lion Show. I'm super excited. We have a great wealth of knowledge today. Michell Levy, he's a global credibility expert. He's done numerous TED Talks. He's written, how many books have you written, actually, real quick, before I butcher it?
65.
65 books. That's just a beautiful number to have. And I'm just super excited to have you on the show. So, why don't you just kind of introduce yourself real quick a little bit and tell everybody kind of what you're up to these days, and then we'll just kind of go from there.
Thanks for having me, Robert. So I've been in Silicon Valley for 37 years, happily married for 35, a 26-year-old son who's doing really well. What I've done, I've created 20-ish companies. I've been on the board of a NASDAQ firm for 9 years. As a book publisher, we have published over 750 books, a couple TEDx's, did a commencement speech. I've lived a good life so far.
You've done so much. What's something that you're excited about, like right now? Like,
Thing that really helped me figure out who I am today was between 2019 and 2020. I interviewed 500 thought leaders on credibility, and there was a ton of lessons. So if there's one of the TEDx's, it's called "We Are Losing Our Humanity." I'm tired of watching it happen. What came out of that is an updated definition. So credibility is the quality in which you're trusted, known, and liked. There are 10 values of credibility. And probably the most significant sort of learning that I got out of that is clarity. So I could sit with, having done that 500 times there, another 600 times afterwards, I could sit with any human or any company, help them articulate where they are executing on their purpose in less than 10 words. That level of clarity brings specificity, brings focus. It brings not only gives the business owner or the company a compass, but if they then share that compass, how they show up, it brings them a magnet.
and do you think that you got really good at clarity working with so many different businesses, and then you would talk to them and they just wouldn't have any clarity, and you were kind of like, we need to get clear on what your business is before we can solve any of your problems? Or what kind of led to this skill or this path of helping people find clarity?
Well, I wasn't convinced. So book had four book publishing companies, nice six-figure businesses until COVID, from 2005 to COVID. COVID sort of decimated many things. And it was around 2019 that I thought, hey, something's going to change as publishing is being democratized. I needed to do something else.
Mm-hmm.
So I thought to myself, what is it that the authors that I've published were interested in? They wanted credibility. I looked at the definition of credibility in the dictionary, and the answer was not what I thought it would be. So that's why I ended up doing the research. During the research, the first question I asked was on clarity. And I was shocked that 98%, even with prepping the guests before they showed up, 98% of the thought leaders that I interviewed did not have clarity. So I fine-tune, I practice my ability to deliver clarity during the interviews and subsequently afterwards. And now with the businesses I have, I do three things. We still publish, but it's about 10% of the business. Um, the uh, the other two are split almost equal. Executive coach. I'm part of Marshall Goldsmith's 100 Coaches. So I executive coach typically larger, fast-growing companies. So Inc. 5000 CEOs leading the future with executive abundance. We can always talk about that at some point in time. The other piece is focused on business owners using LinkedIn to drive a successful business. And what I really am focused on, and this is about, I'm going to say this is now 2 months old, is a phrase that I've known forever, but really started owning. That is, sell them what they want, deliver what they need. So, what does the CEO want? They want abundance. What does the business owner want? They want a successful business, and LinkedIn's the tool they're going to use. What do they actually get when they become one of my clients? They first got clarity, they got credibility, and then we deliver what's next.
I've built a lot of businesses, right? So that's kind of been my claim to fame. I've gone from business to business to business. Some are success, most of them are wild, amazing, flaming balls of failure. And then I learn from them and I go to the next, right? Right now I'm on a good kick of success, right? So that's always nice. But how do you start getting clarity on what you should focus on, or what business you should start, or even, what niche you should work in, right? What is your first step, or what is your first how do you think about clarity and helping people get clarity, I guess? What's the
Oh,
first step?
interesting. So normally, I'll answer that question, but we'll step back for a second. Normally, I'm talking about companies that have an existing business.
Right.
They want more. They want success. They haven't put their arms around it, because what happens is if you're working for me when I'm working with somebody that has an existing business. Now we're working on based on exactly the customers they serve today, what they're thinking about, what they're focused on.
Hmm.
Um, for someone, now to answer your question, for somebody to figure out clarity, who they are, what they do, a lot of times in life, what turns out to be someone's superpower, earlier on in their life, it was a kryptonite. So think about to yourself, what is it that held you back? What is it that you had to overcome? What was it that you spent a lot of time and energy on becoming good at it? And you have a passion, a burning passion in your mind to help others get there and solve and resolve that kryptonite faster. That many times turns out to be what people's businesses are. And
Right.
so what I'd recommend is get a couple clients. Even if, by the way, if you want the easiest way to start a business, I call it the 3 for 3 program. Go out and find 3 people who already trust, knows, and likes, or trust, knows, and loves you, and offer for them to provide them your service, and offer it at $1 a month for 3 months. The real cost is sometime during that time frame, they'll give you 3 referrals, and towards the end, they'll give you a video testimonial. That particular program will allow you to at least pick up, you'll have at least 3, but hopefully you get up to 12 clients. You'll get incremental video testimonials, and you'll decide, do I really like this? Is this really what I like to do? Is this my passion? And once you've done it a couple times, the 3 up front where it's $1 each, and you start charging other people, is the dynamic different? Are you enjoying it as much? Is the client getting as much value? And essentially, the what we often do in business is we spend, I'll tell you about partnerships. We spend way too much time on making the perfect business, constructing all the contracts, protecting yourself. And what I do with partners when I find somebody I want to work with is we talk to each other, we shake hands, we do our first client. The business actually formally, or actually it doesn't really formally, the business actually starts, and I run it through one of my other companies when we have our first client.
Hmm.
Somewhere during the time frame where we're working with a client, shit's going to hit the fan. And when it does, the question is, does the partner I'm working with, or does the person who's on the other side, do they talk to the client in a way that you would yourself? That's determining whether or not you want to continue. And was it fun? Once that first client actually happens and is enjoyable, that's when I sit down and do the contracts. Right. So the moral of that story is, don't spend a lot of time focused on all the legal mumbo jumbo. Go out and do what you love doing, satisfy clients in such a way where they're willing to pay you, and then figure out what to build the business around that.
I had a large finance company. I found that the finance industry is just it's full of desperation and just kind of gross. So I tried to get out of it, right? And I had a massive finance company though. It was very very successful. But then I pivoted to the new business that I have right now. So I don't think you know this, but what we do right now is we help people get high paying remote CSM jobs. CSM stands for Client Success Manager. So like if you've ever gone to like a Tony Robbins or you've ever
Yeah,
had a
I
fitness coach.
actually researched you ahead of time. I knew that. Yeah.
Okay, good. And like at the CSM role right now, we're blowing up and it's just absolutely insane. But it's really because the market is demanding it, right? It's not necessarily like I did anything special. It's because people in America right now need remote, high paying jobs, right? So it's very interesting to, of, for myself, I could have done a billion things, but this is very successful right now. And then now the movement behind it is kind of like what we were talking about for the credibility stuff. Is I do believe there's a lot of businesses out there that aren't delivering on the results and they don't have the manpower on the back end to help them get the client the actual results, right? So that's why it's very beautiful, but it's also just it's kind of funny that, there's so many opportunities, and I kind of ended up going with the one that was just absolutely crushing it because the market said that's what was in demand
But
right
by the
now.
way, that is always, if you could see where the market's going and
Right.
get in early enough with a solution. By the way, with AI, with companies that are delivering a lot, but they're
Mhm.
not following through and making sure it happens, that's a great model. And what
Yeah.
a great way to monetize is to be in the middle of finding people who are looking for work and finding companies who need the workers and putting yourself in the middle. Great business model.
Yeah, we got I'm blessed. I feel very like I've worked relentlessly for the last, decade, but this one is really working out and it's just very, very cool. But yeah, we're always trying to, have more clarity and help business owners to fulfill on their results as well. So I don't know. It's just kind of interesting though to go from an industry that was very tough, very just desperate, people trying to get money and loans and things like that, and then pivoting to a simple business model that actually is very easy to fulfill and is in demand. It was just a life night and day. So, anyways, like when you're talking to some businesses, have you seen that some businesses have just their business is just very difficult, it's very hard, and they need to get more clarity and make it more simple? Because I always used to build very complicated businesses, and now I'm finding that simple businesses scale, simple businesses are very successful. I'm just curious, like what are some of the businesses that you've been mentoring, or like what are they going through right now? I guess these days.
I think there's the old school model
Hmm.
of making things really complicated, getting all the legal protection and doing all that stuff first, make it impossible for anyone else to replicate. Oh, by the way,
Right.
that's never possible. Um, and the answer is with GPT, one
Hmm.
thing has happened. So 2023 brought about something that for those that are listening, you may or may not have really accepted this yet, but thought leadership is now ubiquitous.
Right.
If there's any company out there with any business model, I could go to GPT and then replicate that model. Now, can I actually do it effectively? That's a different issue. But if I then hired somebody who's really good at processes and then I find a couple of clients, yep, I can replicate that model. And you know what? You want to live in that world where it's relatively easy, but you do it well. As a matter of fact, by the way, you may want to hire one of the CSMs for your company so that you make sure that you deliver
Yeah, we just
properly.
did actually.
Right.
Yeah, we just did. I mean, me and my business partner, we did take a while to hire our first CSM, which is kind of ironic, but it's just because we're both very proactive, right? So we kind of had everything covered. And then you get to the point though, everybody needs to start to plan how they're going to bring talent into their business. Obviously, you have to be able to afford them. You have to have a system, and they have to have a structure and a schedule for what they're going to do. But yeah, there gets to a point where there's so many people in your program, and this is like the big problem with almost all businesses is like the money. Everybody wants more and more money, right? So we just hit a record month. Next month we want to hit an even bigger record month, right? But the more record months that you hit, the more people come into your business. If the system isn't dialed in, you end up with a lot of unhappy clients, right? And then that's kind of where we're at, and as a society and with online businesses, the recession of trust is at an all-time low, right? Nobody trusts
Mm.
anybody anymore. Nobody believes that the business can do it, or at least that's what they say. I mean, people who do their research are good, but some people are honestly seeing a 15-second video of me on Instagram and then hopping on a call, and then I'm charging them money to join the program, and sometimes they pull the trigger not knowing necessarily if this is the perfect fit for them yet, right? So it's an interesting time to be in the online world with the lack of trust. But how do you think, or how do you go about maybe building more trust in the industry or being more credible? What do you usually do for those sort of steps?
So credibility is the quality in which you're trusted, known, and liked.
Right.
And trust is there are four elements there, right? It's being vulnerable, it's having external integrity, being authentic, and being coachable. So if you're talking about a person, those are characteristics that are easy to emulate. If you're
Right.
talking about a company, that's not necessarily as easy to emulate. So to me, it's what's appropriate when you're building trust is that next pillar, the as I get to know a company. So if you look at the company website, if you start watching video testimonials of the company, are you hearing from the clients that they had the intent and commitment to do the right thing, that they really were servant leaders? They were there to service the audience. And then here's the most appropriate thing. I mentioned the word integrity associated with trust. Integrity is also, it's external integrity. With trust, it's internal integrity when you're looking at getting to know somebody. So if you watched video testimonials of clients, do they reinforce the integrity that the company says they're doing? And when that connection is aligned, that's really where there's dynamite. And when it's not aligned, that's when people run away.
Yeah. So you just kind of want to, first of all, the business owner has to have that level of integrity, right? The want to go above and beyond. I've always said it, like, I want to give people an experience when they join my business. And I've worked with a lot of, multi-million dollar businesses, and they all have this system kind of dialed in to take the client from paid customer, to onboarding, to fulfillment, to, testimonial, and being hopefully becoming a referral, and so on and so forth. And it does get very mechanical though, and sometimes you forget the human element, right? Of some people need more attention, some people are just crazy. There's just lots of different roles that people play, but you want to always like build a system, is what I'm trying to say, to over deliver to the client to help them, and that should be in the forefront. I don't know too many other business owners that actually think that way though, or have thought about that. It's more like more sales, more marketing, more marketing,
Oh, no,
not so
Robert,
much.
you're spot on. The reason why you and your partner
Mhm.
took a long time to hire a CSM, I'm going to guess, is because you want to make sure you have to do it yourself to be
Yeah.
credible, to be trustworthy. You have to have, as I always say, have swept the floor, right?
Right.
And so if when you do it yourself and you're building on the system I'm doing with LinkedIn at the moment, they're getting a whole lot of me because I need to have more than enough clients that I've created the processes and then double check that they work over and over again.
Right.
Right. So before I hire other people to come in and solve some of these issues for me,
Hmm.
I need to see it so that when I actually am telling a prospect, we do
Yeah.
this, we do that, it's because I've done it myself with not just for myself, but I've done it myself with clients. And that's the thing that's interesting is it's important to be both a client of your own product as well
Right.
as someone who's really used it successfully to serve others. Then when you're speaking, you sound differently. But
Yeah.
quick question. It's kind of the integrity, say what you do what you say. So have a um, very short way where you articulate the audience you're addressing, and then have that reinforced in everything you do. So your LinkedIn, your social media, all of your websites are all consistently around that. And then you're
Yeah.
reinforcing it when you meet with somebody one on one. That level of consistency also drives incremental trust.
It's kind of hard to do. It's a lot easier said than done. Like, but when you're building the business, like sometimes like I said, a lot of these businesses I build is just like, let's just throw spaghetti at the wall, whatever sticks. Like, we can start doing that. But yeah, having a little more thought into your business, I think, is really important. Like having the get kind of meta and like experience what it would be like if you were not part of the business, but looking at it from the outside, looking in, right? That's kind of what you have to do. I'm curious, you interviewed so many business owners and thought leaders. Like, what are some of the key things that you would take away from interviewing all those people, and then what are some of the key things that you kind of maybe like patterns that you saw from the super successful ones that kind of stood out?
I think there's two, but we've already mentioned both of them. All
Mm,
right. So one of the patterns is those that were successful were already on a trend that was in motion,
yeah.
right? It was already something that there was a strong demand in the marketplace and not an over fulfillment of people supplying or solving that demand, right? So that's
Right.
a piece of it. The other piece was they all had really strong systems,
Yeah.
right? By having a strong system, it means that you've got to learn as a business owner to be able to leverage other people, other resources. To me, it includes leveraging partners, but also being able to hire and retain. So whether it's 10 people in your company or 20, or even that first hire, what is it that they're going to do, and what is the system they're going to follow so that a new client will get the exact same experience, whether it's you, or in your case, your partner, or the new CSM. What is that experience? Have you actually put the motion in place so it's the same each and every time?
It's hard to do for sure. I mean, so for the first finance company that we were doing, we definitely did not do that, right? We had my business partner. He had more money and ego than anybody else around. And the problem is when he had so much money, he didn't want to do any of the work. So then we would just hire people and we would just kind of like throw them at the role, and we would hope that they would do the best job that they could. A lot of times they were in the Philippines and they were VAs, and they were very hardworking, but they didn't really know what they were doing, and we didn't have the system. So that's really where I learned, like, hey, no, we got to have like we got to have a ramp up period for the CSMs. We got to have a script for all the CSMs. We got to have a way, a company like ethos, or like how we manage and solve problems inside of the company and how we would handle certain situations, right? And that was a big aha moment, I guess, for myself on this kind of thing. It's just I wouldn't have had that experience. I would assume, oh yeah, they'll do a great job at their job without me doing anything, but it doesn't work like that.
No, the issue is the amazing thing is hiring somebody from another country
Yeah,
whose price structure is so much different than yours.
yeah.
And if they speak English, the interesting part, this was about 14 years ago. I went to hire my first VA from the Philippines. We had conversations. They understood exactly what I said. And I said, hey, I'd like to have this done. And over again, I would give something, but the output was not what I expected. So I
Mm,
got rid of them, got another one. Got
good.
rid of them, got a third one. And I was thinking, this is the last time. And then I went back to one of the things I learned in college. And I'll have you visualize, but those that have a piece of paper and a pen, I'm going to ask you to do this. Take out a piece of paper and draw a box in the middle of the sheet of paper and just label it black box. And then have a line going into the left-hand side of the piece of paper, label it input, and a line going to the outside of the paper, label it output. And the aha moment to me when I realized that that is what we needed to do, I would sit down with this third VA. By the way, has now been with me for 14 years. And we would say, hey, listen, this is what I like to do. And then this is exactly what it should look like at the end. So I would describe the inputs and describe the outputs. And then together, we used Google Docs and created the workflow of the steps of things that needed to happen to get there. I think I did either one or two with her together. After that, she created her own workflows. And so what would happen, and by the way, as a business owner, occasionally I would this is the error that most people make. When you ask somebody a question, they're going to give you a black box answer, right? Based on who they are and their experience, they're going to give you what they think works based on their black box.
Hmm.
And so what would happen every now and then, and I used to do it a lot for them, and now that occasionally they do it for me, is I'd ask for something. They say, Mitchell, what are the inputs and outputs? And I go, oh, yeah, of course. Right. Because if you could describe the input and you could describe the expected output, what happens in the middle, unless you're the detailed operations person who is executing it, that is less important than making sure that when you deliver a solution for a client, it is very clear in the client's eyes and your eyes what the output is and should be.
Right. What's the result? What's the end? The transformation, right? Once they go through the process with whoever's working with you and what you take them on. That's interesting. Is the publishing company separate from Credibility Nation, or is it all under one hat?
Oh, it's separate companies. So I actually have four distinct publishing companies.
Wow.
We've probably put in a couple of $1 million worth of development.
Hmm.
And so now when authors come to us, the thing that I offer and those that are interested in me is I have integrity.
Yeah.
I basically say, this is what we charge, this is what we do, and then I deliver slightly more than what we say we do, and then they're happy, right?
Nice.
And in the publishing business, what happens, Robert, anytime something gets democratized, I mentioned before that thought leadership has become ubiquitous or democratized. Well, back in even 2019, book publishing has become democratized. So anytime something has been democratized, a new business model enters the fold. I'm
Mm.
sure you know what it is, but I'm happy to tell you what it is. It's not impossible, but it's really hard to compete against that business model.
Yeah.
Okay. Should I tell you what it is?
Yeah. Tell me.
It's called stupid. It's it's the people who now call themselves a publisher, now fill in the blank with whatever else has been democratized, and they deploy a business model that will never actually make them money.
Mm.
Kind of like the dot-com days, we're selling at a loss, but we'll make it up in volume.
Right.
And so the interesting part is it's not impossible, but it's difficult to compete against stupid. And
Right.
so for those who actually already trust, know, and like me, or those who get recommended by those, I do exactly that. And like I said, we've published over 750 books, and it's a fun journey helping someone have an asset called a book. But you mind if I take it to the next level?
Yeah.
So in the old days, really old days, 20 plus years ago, you would write a book and potentially people would see it, they get excited about it. It could go and do what, something that not exactly the same as what viral on social media is, but it could take off.
Right.
That doesn't happen today.
Hmm.
What happens today is, in my mind, for a business owner that wants a book is an asset that will help you make money in other things. So the
Right.
book is the asset that will help you make money as a speaker, as a consultant, as a coach, or sell your product. Right. So it's not the standalone thing that basically becomes your awareness sponsor.
Hmm.
It's certainly not going to be your financial sponsor. What it is an opportunity to get credibility and to be able to use it in such a way where you go after other vehicles to get awareness, other vehicles to get sponsorship. But absolutely, one of the things you have, very similar to a podcast, by the way, Robert, but
Yeah.
one of the things that you do have is you have incremental credibility.
Right. They do. Well, if you have a book, people see you more as an authority, right? Um, like I selfishly want to do the whole thing where I, write a book and I do a bunch of public speaking. So what kind of guidance would you have for someone who wants to do that, and kind of be successful? Like what have you seen some of the people who leverage books and leverage it for public speaking? Like what's their recipe, or what is their system that's worked?
So there are many people who will sell you a dream,
Hmm.
right? And those are the potentially the
Is this where
bad
the
actors
integrity
that
comes in?
that's potentially the bad actors. So let me tell you how you could do a book in public speaking and guarantee you'll be successful.
Okay.
Okay. So the first thing I'm going to ask is what's the output?
The output, yes. So I want to help people be more successful. That's my goal, right? I want the end result to be able to have some sort of public speaking career or some sort of opportunity where people will watch my videos or read my books, and it will help them be more successful. I know it's very broad and very generic,
It's
right? But that's
Robert,
the idea.
I love the intent,
Yeah,
but
that's all
it's
I got
so broad
right
these days.
now. Yeah,
What is right around the corner are all the AI avatars that will also make the same promise,
right. Yeah,
right? And you can't and some of them they're going to charge money, some of them are going to be free. It's hard to fight against those.
right, right.
So what I might encourage is where clarity comes in,
Hmm.
is being much more focused on the audience that you want to address and specifically then identify what does the word success mean,
Right.
right?
Well, that's
And
yeah.
then what happens, let's assume we have that. By the way, we
Hmm.
could talk privately and or we could
Yeah.
even do it on the air. We could come up with specific clarity on an audience. But then what happens is you're writing the book, not so much so the book sells, but you're writing the book, and as you're doing that, you're thinking to yourself, well, who are my referral partners? Who are my awareness partners?
Yeah.
For instance, can I go to the Small Business Administration? Can I go to SCORE? And if I gave them, if I gave 100 SCORE offices 20 copies of my book each, would they hand them out to business owners?
Right.
Right. So notice the word. if I give the book to these people, will they hand them out to potentially who might be my client?
Right.
And what that means is if they get the book, they get excited about it. There are aspects of the book that will draw them in. And typically, this is where the cycle comes in. They come in for a webinar or potentially a live seminar. And
Hmm.
then the upsell is in some cases like very similar to the programs you're running today.
Right.
So the question becomes the if you're using the book as a door opener, what is the door it's going to open? Who's it going to open the door for? And then what is where is it that you're going to actually pick up both your awareness and financial sponsors
Mm.
to be able to allow you to afford to do the stuff you're doing?
Right. Well, the idea was I was gonna either have an app or at least an email newsletter, right? And I was gonna collect all the email newsletters, and then I would sell some sort of sponsorship or my own offers through the email newsletter. So that's the why the broad I want to help people succeed kind of works, but it's also something I'm passionate about, right? I'm very I like to take very complex things and make them simple. That's what I'm good at, right? So that's why that would be. But that's a little bit more clarity on why of what I would do, right? The outcome would be more a bunch of email subscribers, have affiliates be able to sell people stuff on the newsletter, have my own offers I can sell in the newsletter, and I would have motivated people that want success, right? That would be the target audience, which is everybody and their grandma. But at least I'd be talking to be motivated people, right? That are trying to achieve something. I like those kinds of business owners. I like those kinds of individuals. So I'm
Well,
just,
what I might encourage you to consider at the moment is
mm,
start small enough and smart and start around the business you have today.
yeah,
What does it mean to be a remote success manager?
right,
And that would be the book that you'd have. And then potentially you could even have books that are focused on software companies. You could have
mm,
books that are focused on hardware companies, right? You could actually, and that is much more focused on if you said, hey, listen, the world is about AI or human.
yeah,
Okay, if you want to be that human, that's part of the gig. Do you want to work with product which is software or hardware? Okay, do you want to work with software products? Great. Here are the steps and everything you need to do, including using your system to actually do that. Now, your sponsors are the software companies
yeah.
who are interested in having well-trained folks that are part of their system, and they could be so that could be part of the bigger system for you.
See, you just gave me clarity. Look at that. I was just thinking, well, yeah, I mean, high paying remote jobs, right? That's what I was thinking. Is like if I wrote a book on how to get a high paying remote job, plug it into my business, get the people that would be there, that would fit very smooth. Um, I mean, this is maybe I don't know if you want to talk about this, but like, how are you writing books so fast with people? Are you using AI now? Or do you have a whole publishing team, or do you do any of the writing, or is it all just the publishing part?
Oh, so this is since 2005,
Yeah,
right? So my very similar to you, I would find things which are complicated and simplify.
yeah,
And so each publishing company I created had a different model and approach. And of course, I
oh,
needed to be
cool.
the guinea pig,
Mm,
right? So one of our publishing models is called 42 Rules. 42 Rules contains 42 500 word articles.
mm,
So if you've been blogging for a year, you have a book, right? Now it
yeah.
needs to be modified to be able to do that, right?
Hmm.
We have another model, which is Think Aha. The Think Aha model, many of the books in there are comprised of, are you ready? 140 bite-sized quotes. And
Hmm.
so you break them into chapters, you put summaries in front of it. So each time I'd come up with a new business model, I've done a bunch of books based on a series of interviews and podcasts, right?
Yeah.
And then, but we're at the moment, we're not using, we have AI augmenting the stuff we're doing, but we're not writing books directly with AI because once
Yeah.
you do that, then distribution's a whole lot harder
Right.
because the distribution systems are not interested in AI generated books. So
Right.
what I'll do instead is I will create a GPT or a chatbot for Mitchell or a chatbot for the author, and then I would feed it the manuscript, and then I
Cool.
would ask it the right question.
Yeah,
Question is, from a content edit perspective, if you're servicing this audience, how would you update this book?
that's cool.
Now, in the past, I'd have to pay somebody a whole lot of money to do it and
Right.
hope they got it right. Now, seconds later, I've got
Right.
something really powerful if I've asked the right question.
Yeah. No, I've been writing a book with Claude, and it's just like this is genius. But you still always need to have that extra pair of eyes. You need a real editor, and it's this. It hasn't replaced, I think, editors in writing yet, especially if you don't want it to be boring, right, and or lose its humanity, right? That's what it is. It's with AI. I was reading this book on copywriting, and it's like AI can write you a story about somebody having their first child, but somebody actually having their first child and writing the emotions totally different, right? Totally different world. And when I read that, I think about that now all the time. The difference between an AI written book and somebody's true experience and feelings written down in the book is very different. Kind of funny. So what do the successful authors do? This real quick, if you have like, because it's like you publish the book and then do you guys help them promote it? Do you help them like go on campaigns? What's the success of that right now? What's that
So,
look like?
as a publisher, we made the decision not to also be the quote unquote ongoing marketer,
Yeah, the
but we do the
promoter.
basic stuff. So, basic means we're distributed in 38,000 bookstores and libraries and other locations in the US and abroad. It also means that in today's world, just going on Amazon would be enough for most people, right? We
Mm-hmm.
do that plus a ton of other locations. We also do a Amazon bestseller campaign, right?
Oh, cool.
And that is something that will sell books, but it's not really the book seller. It's the opportunity that you can call yourself an Amazon bestseller. So we do that as well for the authors. And then anytime there are complaints, we deal with that, right? Because if you're listed on Amazon, almost inevitably something will go wrong at some point in time.
Yeah, yeah.
And so do you deal with it yourself or do you have us do it? From a marketing perspective, I will tell you the authors that have generated the most success
Mm-hmm.
is while we're in the middle of doing our stuff. So post writing, and they've given us the manuscript, and now we're doing the content layout, well, actually copy edit, content layout, uh, and all of the mechanics that make a book a book. And we're typically a manuscript that's done, it's 2 to 4 months before the book is published.
Mm-hmm.
So during that time frame, if the author is saying, "Hey, who are my," so I'll give you an example of a coach that comes top of head. What she wanted is her coaching practice was 40% utilized. That means she was only working 40% of the time, and she didn't want to grow it bigger. She just wanted to go from 40 to 80%. So while we were working on the manuscript, she actually came out and found 300 locations to send her book. So they were both referral partners, they were educational institutions, as well as potential clients. She wrote handwritten notes and she
Wow.
created both USPS and FedEx envelopes. And when the book came in, she stuffed the envelopes, handed the notes, sent them out. And for the last decade, I wanted to give you an example that really worked. She's been at 80%. I mean, ongoing, and her
Wow.
books taught in universities. And that's really the the goal of success of a book is to put it in the hands of the right person. Now, if you're selling a thousand or 10,000 or $15,000 product, what's the goal of putting it directly in the hands of the person you're talking to? If you're selling a much smaller product, who is the person? So in this case, if you think about the top three software companies that are using people from your systems,
Mm.
what is their incentive of having first dibs at those people? And
Yeah.
what would they do in terms of either buying physical books or even distributing books to certain audiences? Because what ultimately happens is they get first crack at some really good remote service managers, right? Client managers like that.
Yeah.
Anyhow, that would be my parallel for you is is who is it that you could reach out to that would be in their best interest to give that book to the right audience.
Yeah, that's huge. Mic drop. Boom. Well, I like that a lot. That's really good. What like out of all the businesses you have, which one's kind of taking up the most of your focus? Is it the consulting? Is it the publishing? Is it the Credibility Nation? Which one are you most focused on these days?
So the at the moment, 10% is about my publishing side.
Yeah,
Everything's productionized, everything's in place. My team does most of the work.
cool.
I'm there for the beginning and sort of sanity check somewhere through the middle and at the end, but very little time,
Yeah.
right? The Where I'm spending most of my issues are things I'm building.
Yeah.
So the executive coaching and particularly focused on executive abundance,
Hmm.
that's a build,
Yeah, I'd
right?
like to
And
know a little
that
bit about
is
that.
a personal delivery. That's being a coach to a Inc. 5000 company
Yeah.
and helping the CEO navigate the water of bringing abundance to the five stakeholder groups that they're satisfying. That's a personal thing. So that takes up time because it's not a leverageable approach or leverageable way to do things.
Yeah.
What is leverageable is the LinkedIn work.
Hmm.
But it's early enough. I've been using software for 8 years. I've been deploying it with clients for a year. And we currently have just 12 clients we're working with because I started this. I basically rebranded everything 2 months ago.
Cool.
And so I I still want to make it customizable enough that will cap our client base at 50, but
Hmm.
I'm still working on building the structures and making sure. So I'm the guy who's sweeping the floors and making
Yeah.
sure it works and making sure our clients are happy. And when they're not doing what they're supposed to do, I'm the one who's following through today. And I'm doing it to realize either how much fun or how much of a pain in the butt it is.
Right.
So I can determine when I hire people, what should I pay them?
Yeah. Well, I mean, big problems, have lots of big paydays, but also big pains in the ass. So,
Well,
and that,
I think in this particular case, part of what I'm helping people understand on LinkedIn
mhm,
is to ignore all the marketing cutter stuff they've been sold.
right,
Focus on their true clarity of who they are, the playground they play in, and to realize it's not about the big numbers. It's ultimately, Robert, it's about that one-on-one conversation. It's
yeah,
ultimately about if you're have the opportunity to talk to your prospect or talk to your referral partner, it's getting those and then following through with what you say you're going to do.
right. How do you do that better? What techniques have you found to hold yourself accountable and also just to not overpromise yourself to too many people?
Ask that question again because I first I thought you were asking the question in association with the company I have is called Social Complement, right?
Oh
Even
yeah.
the name itself, it's complimenting, LinkedIn in terms of what you're doing. I thought you were asking me a social compliment question, but I think you asked me a different one. So ask me again
um,
so I could verify.
what did you say? You said it's all about making good relationships with other business owners and then following through with doing what you say you're going to do, right? And I was just saying, I was
Mm.
just asking if you have any tactics or skills or just like, because I mean, I obviously am a man of integrity and I do everything that I say I'm going to do and I work my butt off to do it. But I also overpromise myself, just like almost every other business owner. I overcommit to too many things. Have you had I guess any sage wisdom on that kind of stuff?
I'm not convinced. I'll give you the best wisdom I can give.
Yeah.
One of the things I found in Credibility Nation, we have something we do called Accountability Mondays.
Oh yeah.
It's just part, if you're a member of
I like
Credibility
that.
Nation or a part of, or any of my clients, you have the ability every Monday to come in for a half hour and talk about what is it that you're going to do this coming week? What did you promise last week that you didn't do? The problem in terms of being a human being is that you may not think you're going to do it, but you continually lie to yourself. And the lie is you make a client a promise but something else happened in your life, you couldn't do it, and you go, oh, wait a second, I didn't promise for this Friday, I promised for next Friday, right? And
Right.
so you change the promises. So the thing that makes sense, one of the practices we deploy, this came originally from Marshall Goldsmith, is something called the daily questions. So I
Mm,
still do the accountability Mondays, and
yeah.
what I do now is every day I have, I think it's like 8 different questions, and they have to do with business, life, family. Like it's did I do my best to? So did I do my best? One of the questions I always ask myself is, did I do my best to change the life of one person for the rest of their life? When I give somebody clarity, it has the potential to do that. So I try to do that at least once a day. Um,
Cool.
the thing is, if one of the key goals is to, in your case, make sure you deliver on your all your promises, make sure you start setting up metrics that are associated with it.
Yeah.
And so make sure that not just you are monitoring those metrics, but you have somebody else on the team
Right.
that's going to
KPIs or
kick you in the
really.
butt if because it when you do stuff 100% by yourself, it's so easy to make excuses and you don't even know you're doing that.
Mm,
But if you do set up a structure and process where things have metrics and the goal is to hit those metrics and keep a certain level, you could hire people and say, hey, listen, why don't you make sure not just you guys, but make sure I keep to those metrics. And if we don't hit, we're not going to give you the bonus. And
right.
so that's, people are incented by money. That would be a way to go about doing that.
Yeah. I mean, I love Accountability Monday. Do you have any other things about that? What does that mean look like for you, or what is that? It's just what did I say I was going to do, and then it's Monday. It's time to.
Oh, it's an opportunity for at least for those that come self accountability,
Yeah,
right? There,
that's what I'm going to use it
it's
for.
it, because if you end up saying, "Hey, this is what I'm going to do this week," and then the next week you say the same thing over and over,
It's a slippery
it's not
slope.
that anyone's going to give you a hard time, but you're
Mhm.
going to feel embarrassed, right?
Yeah.
And what often happens, Robert, people find an excuse not to go to Accountability Monday,
Mm,
right? And so if you really want to be successful, the people who are existing clients and those that are in Credibility Nation who really are successful, they're also accountable to themselves and to their clients. And they end up making time to go. And they'll let me know, hey, Mitch, I can't make it this Monday. Great. I mean, it's not no one's keeping a scorecard. It's
right.
it's really your scorecard, right? It's
Yeah.
it's who are you and how do you show up in the world?
Well, I think that's a gem. I'm going to steal that from you. So I really appreciate that. I'm going to hold myself accountable every Monday and write down all the things. And I think I'll bring my team in and we'll do that as well. I might even do that for my clients, to be honest with you. Every Monday, Accountability Monday, we all promised we would do these things. Did we do them? So on and so forth. I think that's very powerful. So very cool. Is there anything else about the Credibility Nation that you think is important that we didn't touch on?
One of the biggest issues I've found, both with clarity and credibility, is that people either think they have it or think it's not important or think it's easy to buy.
Yeah.
Um, all of those lead towards disaster,
Yeah.
right?
There's no shortcuts.
If somebody, yeah, there's no shortcuts. If the example I used before, if you're starting a new business and you don't know if you're good at it, you don't know if you like it, is go out and start practicing.
Yeah.
Now, I would encourage, like I said, to start practicing by charging somebody, even if it's $1 a month for 3 months. But that gives you practice, that gives you awareness. And by the time a year has gone by and you've gotten, 5, 12, 20 clients, whatever it is for you, all of a sudden you now are talking from a level of experience. Credibility is being able to talk from experience and being extremely, if your goal, and this is the thing we do with clarity, is if your goal is to make sure your customers are happy, they're happy because they either reach some nirvana or they solve some pain point. If you continue to work to allow your customers to A, do either of those, and B, your customers are going to change over time. So to adjust how you're solving either the problem or bringing nirvana. I know that's a little big picture, but when it all comes down to the clarity statement, I call
Yeah.
it a CPOP, your customer point of possibilities.
Mhm.
And that is something that's less than 10 words that acts as a compass for you to be able to navigate what you're doing in business.
You try and get the whole company together to agree on it, or is it just like the vision before that drives the company, you think?
It's I think as the CEO, depending on the size of the company, you definitely want to, for larger companies, you're working with at least your staff
Yeah.
to come up with that.
Get them all
And
in.
how it's deployed is when you're wearing your marketing hat is different than when you're wearing sales, different than where you're wearing finance, right? So the thing that's interesting is that that CPOP is adjusted based on who your direct customer is.
Yeah.
Finance, the customer is internal, not external. So it's a different focus in terms of the pain point or pleasure point that you're solving for your client. But it all leads towards a bigger vision, and that vision has to be carried by the CEO. The CEO and those people who have direct responsibility to allowing everyone to see things needs to paint a, a simple vision of what they're doing and where they're going.
Right.
Right. So in listening to you, I'm not sure yet if the solution was you're helping people get jobs and get paid, or you're helping companies do a better job. Those are two different scenarios,
Right.
right? Based on this, when I looked at you ahead of time, what I understand now, it's the people get jobs. Is that the right place to monetize? I'm not saying it is or isn't, right?
Mhm.
But that's where when you think about what is the problem, and with so many government employees leaving their jobs, with so many people losing their jobs, potentially focusing on that could be a good area. On the other hand, talking about bringing success and ensuring success for a company's software or hardware product and delivery, it's quite possible that the companies would pay you,
Yeah.
not the right. So I'm not saying there's a right or wrong here, but clarity is being very clear of who you're serving and how you're going about doing it.
Yeah. We are kind of a little backwards because not backwards, but we're helping the businesses for free and we're charging the people, which is kind of funny
Oh, it's
because
not
that's
necessarily, it's all about supply and demand,
yeah, exactly. But
right?
it's also we're rubbing elbows with some big players from it, which is very cool. So that's
Nice,
exciting about
nice.
it. Yeah, so that's always kind of fun. But yeah, it is like what you just said is I'll have to think about it for a while. So it's a good point. So yeah, I've got a couple questions that I ask everybody that comes on the show. I know we're getting close to the hour. But before we kind of get into those questions, what's the best way if somebody wants to work with you or get in contact with you? What's the best way to find you or reach out?
Best way is through my website, which is mitchelllevy.com, mitchellllevy.com. And you'll see the programs we do. Feel free to sign up for anything. We do a complimentary referral webinar. Why are we not getting the referrals we need? Once a month, I
Mhm.
do a CPOP exercise. I guarantee that everyone gets their CPOP. We're doing the stuff with LinkedIn now, which is pretty powerful. But if you're like, oh my God, I got to talk to Mitchell, you could also go directly and book time on my calendar. So it's mitchelllevy.com.
So yeah, the first question, it's about money. You know, like I said, at a finance company, I've done a lot of spent a lot of my life trying to make a lot of money, and I see a lot of people have too. But what's one tip you want to give to the audience, or you would give to your younger self on how to make more money, how to have a better relationship with money, just anything that comes to mind for you?
Money is very similar to a book. It's just something that can open up doors for you.
Yeah.
And I don't think it's the be all end all. But what I will say, um, they said it to me when I was young, and I followed the practice, and I now recommend this to others who are, starting out their careers, is when you have an opportunity to invest in yourself, to put aside money for your 401k or whatever it is that you do for retirement, if you put it in and put it in the right places and just sit on it and let it grow, it has an opportunity over time to compound and to be a lot. So there's the money you live on day to day, right? Whether or not that meets and you're just good enough or you have a lot, but also putting aside money and opportunity for actually putting aside money today for tomorrow will open up a lot of opportunity that sometimes people ignore.
I love that. I mean, I think it was Benjamin Franklin who said the most powerful force on earth is compound interest. So the next one is happiness. So what is,
Ooh.
what have you found that has helped you live a happier life? How do you find more happiness? What's something that you believe about happiness?
I think it comes back to clarity, right? When I wake up in the morning, I'm thinking about in the big picture, who is it that I serve? And am I having fun doing it?
Yeah.
And if I wake up every morning and I look at my calendar and I see who I'm talking to, and I'm like, ooh, I'm feeling good and I could see positive impact. I, what I often say to people, I've been in my home office since 1997, and I have not worked since then.
Yeah.
Because when I wake up, now occasionally there's some stuff I don't like doing, like we all have that.
Right.
Most of the time, I'm waking up and I'm adding value in some way to somebody's life. And happiness is about going through life and being, I don't know if it's simple as saying you're a servant leader, but
Hmm.
it's a servant leader that has figured out how to monetize the stuff you're doing so that you not only are getting happiness from being giving value to others, but you also are then reaping the reward that you can then do other things with it.
Yeah, just thinking about that makes me happy. So that's good. I think that's good. Then yeah. So the final question, like I said, I'm trying to write the book about success. But if you were going to give some tips to your younger self or to the audience on how to be more successful, or just like, what does that look like to you? What is being successful and gaining success look like to you?
The next time there's an opportunity that opens up like Amazon, buy and hold.
Yeah, buy and hold. All right,
Uh,
wonderful.
there's, I think success is trying as quickly as possible to focus on one word, discernment, particularly today with AI. Um, you ask AI, it gives you phenomenal results, but you also need to verify and give it discernment. When you listen to someone who is giving you the answer on how they've made a ton of money doing something, you need to use discernment. And I think as a human species, if we start um, if we start subjugating our thinking process and we don't actually have discernment in who we are and how we think, uh, we'll get what somebody else has programmed for us. So if you want to
Yeah.
be happy, you want success, is you figure out what you love doing. By the way, to be clear, most of the time, if somebody has a superpower, it's because when they were younger, they had a kryptonite. So there's something that you overcame when you're young. It's very possible that you could turn that into a business and help other people with it. And there's so much joy in waking up every day, helping those you serve uh, fix or resolve the issue that you had, but you do it so much quicker because you're now that much stronger and you've learned a whole lot more. And
Yeah.
there's nothing like that because you're feeling in your heart that this is your purpose. This is why you were put on the planet and you are executing on your purpose.
I think that was powerful, man. Any last thoughts for the audience that we might not have touched on, or that before we wrap up?
I think we did a pretty good job. I'm kind of, you asked enough questions. Uh, I guess the biggest question I'd ask you for anybody, can you, in less than 10 words, talk about how you're executing on your purpose? And does it bring you joy? Right. And that would be the thing that's most important because if you do that, you at least have a compass to
Yeah,
measure whether or not you're happy or not.
it's very powerful. I mean, but how do you find your purpose? I guess we didn't quite dig enough. Or how did you find your purpose? You think, or what was it like? What was your big aha moment?
I found things that I didn't like working for corporate
Right.
because I would have made different decisions. And so when I started my own company and started being an entrepreneur, I just did stuff that was fun.
Right.
right? And I think it's fun is a number of different things. You enjoy doing it, but you also see the satisfaction that you deliver others, and more people will pay for it.
Right. You're
Right?
making
And
progress.
over time, you get to decide, okay, what audiences do I want to work on? What product do I want to work on? Do I want to keep doing the same thing or do I want to grow? For me, I need to grow,
Hmm.
right? And so the thing that brings me the most joy now is at the very simplest level, sitting with a
Yeah.
company, sitting with a human and helping them articulate their CPOP in less than 10 words. Like, what is that thing that lights them up? And the thing I'm doing now, Robert, is I'm actually finding partners because the interesting part, I'm almost done, right? So the interesting part is I've actually created over 1,000 CPOPs for people. I
Wow.
mean, definitely, I've been told I'm one of the best in the world, if not the best in the world, of being able to help somebody articulate where they're executing on their purpose.
Mm.
Now, let's assume for a second that I'm really good. I am, but let's assume I'm really good. When I'm talking to somebody, they're excited about it.
Yeah.
They're like, "Oh my God, this is really it. It's so short, it's so simple, it's so amazing." And what I'll tell you is 10% of the audience who receives their CPOP are do-it-yourselfers.
Yeah.
You remind me of somebody who's a do-it-yourselfer. So if I gifted you a CPOP, you were like, "Oh my God, you know what to do," and you'd make it happen.
Right.
90% of the audience will get affected by other people and will ultimately forget their CPOP somewhere between uh, 2 hours and 2 weeks. And
Right.
so what I'm looking for are those people who could help others with C-popping.
Yeah.
And I thought I'd leave with that because if you know your focus, now you need somebody to help you get there.
Yeah. I think it's very powerful. And then, I mean, do you try and tell the 90% like to make it like an affirmation or to like put it in brush their teeth and look at their CPOP to make it latch on to them, or what are you trying to tell them to
I
do?
one of the things I did, it hasn't proven to be accurate yet,
Hmm.
is when I do create a CPOP for somebody, I made a 30-day email sequence that
Mm.
would reinforce it. And I
That's
was
cool.
hoping that that 10% would go to 20%. And it might have gone up to like 15%. Like but it's still, we need we need more people who are just, I call them clarity guides, who just
Yeah.
want to, once you have your clarity, then you need people to help you and guide you. For many
Hmm.
people who are happily married, your spouse is your clarity guide,
Yeah.
right?
You gotta be switched on, or have somebody at your house who's switched on. Right? I mean, maybe it's not you, maybe it's your spouse. Well, this has been beautiful. This has been a great episode. I'm super happy you were on the show. I'll have to have you on again sometime. Um, really appreciate everybody who's listening. I'm excited to see you in the next one. Any last thoughts before you end it?
Yeah. Hey, thanks everyone. Go out, have yourself a great week, a great month, great year. And if you're inspired, feel free to reach out.
Yeah, we'll
Take
have
care.
all the links below in the show notes. Talk to you in the next one.